Paparazzi cut Diana's car tires, wiretapped her phones, and searched through her garbage. They could earn $100,000 for a single photo. Diana was no longer a human being. She was prey. Before we dive into this disturbing story about the media's relentless pursuit of Diana, please consider subscribing to the Diana Stories and hitting the like button. Your support helps us tell these important stories about the darker side of fame. September 1980. Diana Spencer was just 19 years old, working as a kindergarten teacher in London. She was dating Prince Charles, but the relationship was still new and unofficial. Then, one day, a photographer approached her at the Young England kindergarten. His name was Arthur Edwards, and he worked for the Sun newspaper. "Just one photo, Lady Diana," he called out. "The people want to see the woman who's captured the prince's heart." Diana, innocent and accommodating, agreed. She stood with 2 children from the kindergarten. The sun was behind her, creating a backlit effect. What Diana didn't realize was that the sunlight made her skirt completely transparent. The photo appeared on the front page the next day. Diana was mortified. Her legs were clearly visible through the thin fabric. This was her introduction to the media, humiliation disguised as innocent photography. But Arthur Edwards felt guilty. He later said, "I should have told her about the light, but my editor wanted the shot and I delivered it. That's when I realized the press would do anything for a Diana photo." This incident marked the beginning of what would become a 17-year hunt. Diana went from being a normal young woman to the most photographed person in the world, and the photographers would stop at nothing to get their shot. At first, the attention seemed flattering. Diana was called Shy Di, and the press painted her as a fairy tale princess. But even during the engagement period, warning signs appeared. Photographers camped outside Diana's flat at Coleherne Court. They waited for her to leave, followed her to work, tracked her to the grocery store. Diana couldn't go anywhere without being photographed. One morning, Diana counted 30 photographers outside her building. She called the palace in distress. "I can't leave. They're everywhere. What should I do?" The palace's response was cold. "You'll need to get used to it. This is part of royal life now." But this wasn't normal media coverage. This was obsession. Tabloid editors had discovered that any photo of Diana sold newspapers. A good Diana photo could increase circulation by 500,000 copies. She wasn't just news, she was a goldmine. James Whittaker, royal correspondent for the Daily Mirror, admitted years later, "We treated Diana like a commodity, not a person. Every editor wanted Diana on the front page because it meant profit. We created a monster, and Diana was feeding it." After the wedding in July 1981, the media frenzy intensified. Diana was now Princess of Wales, and the public couldn't get enough of her. But the methods photographers used became increasingly invasive and dangerous. Paparazzi began using telephoto lenses that could photograph Diana from hundreds of meters away. She couldn't relax anywhere. At Balmoral, photographers hid in bushes and behind trees. At Kensington Palace, they climbed walls and used ladders to peer into windows. Diana discovered photographers had rented apartments across from Kensington Palace, specifically to photograph her through palace windows. She felt violated in her own home. Ken Worth, Diana's protection officer, described the situation. The paparazzi were relentless. They would follow us everywhere. They created dangerous situations on the road, cutting us off, surrounding the car. It wasn't journalism, it was stalking. In 1982, Diana was pregnant with William. The media obsession reached new heights. Photographers wanted bump photos, pregnancy photos, any evidence of the royal heir growing inside her. During a skiing trip to Liechtenstein, photographers used long-range lenses to capture Diana in her swimsuit, showing her pregnant belly. Diana was devastated. She had thought she was in a private area, but telephoto lenses made privacy impossible. "I can't even be pregnant in peace," Diana told her friends. "They photographed me like I'm an animal in the zoo." The phone tapping began around this time. Diana's phone conversations were being intercepted and sold to tabloids. Private conversations with friends appeared as insider information in newspapers. Diana became paranoid, and rightfully so. She couldn't trust anyone. She didn't know who was listening. The palace's phone security was outdated, and journalists exploited every vulnerability. Glenn Mulcaire, who later went to prison for phone hacking, admitted, "Diana's voicemails were gold. Tabloids would pay £100,000 for a good story from her private messages. We weren't journalists, we were criminals. But no one stopped us because we were making too much money." What public interest? Diana's breakfast cereal choices? Her vitamin prescriptions? This wasn't journalism, it was voyeurism disguised as news. The car chases became legendary and terrifying. Paparazzi on motorcycles would surround Diana's car, trying to force it to stop so they could get close-up photos. They ran red lights, drove on sidewalks, and created dangerous situations for Diana and the public. In 1993, Diana was being chased through London by 7 motorcycles. Her driver, trying to escape, ran a red light and nearly caused an accident. Diana was shaking with fear when they finally reached the palace. "They're going to kill someone," Diana told her protection officer. "Maybe me, maybe an innocent bystander, but someone is going to die because of these photos." Her prediction, tragically, would come true 4 years later. The gym photos incident in 1993 exemplified how far the invasion had gone. Diana worked out at LA Fitness Gym in London. The gym owner, Bryce Kaler, secretly installed a camera and photographed Diana exercising. The photos, showing Diana in tight workout clothes, sweating, vulnerable, were published in the Sunday Mirror and Daily Mirror. Diana felt violated. She had trusted the gym owner, and he had literally spied on her for money. The photos sold for £100,000. Bryce Taylor showed no remorse. It was just business. Everyone wanted Diana photos, and I had access. Diana sued and won, but the damage was done. She could no longer trust gyms, restaurants, shops. Anywhere public was potentially a trap. The paparazzi's tactics evolved with technology. By the mid-1990s, they had telephoto lenses that could photograph from 500 meters away, night vision cameras for after-dark photography, hidden cameras disguised as everyday objects, phone hacking equipment, GPS tracking devices attached to cars. Diana wasn't being covered by the media, she was being hunted by a technologically advanced surveillance operation. The mental health impact was severe. Diana developed anxiety about leaving the palace. She had panic attacks when she saw cameras. Her bulimia worsened, partly triggered by constant scrutiny of her body. Dr. James Culthurst, Diana's friend and confidant, explained, "The constant photography wasn't just annoying, it was traumatizing. Diana never felt safe. She was always being watched, always being judged. It destroyed her sense of security." The children weren't spared either. Photographers followed William and Harry to school, photographed them at playgrounds, and invaded their private moments. Diana became fiercely protective. Once, when a photographer got too close to William at a theme park, Diana physically blocked the camera and said, "Leave my children alone. They're not your property." But the photos of Diana defending her children just sold for more money. Everything she did, even protecting her sons, became content for tabloids. The competition between photographers was intense and dangerous. They would sabotage each other, fight for position, and take incredible risks for exclusive photos. One photographer admitted, "We would cut each other's car tires so they couldn't follow Diana. We would give false tips about her location to throw competitors off. It was war, and Diana was the prize." In 1996, Diana gave her famous Panorama interview with Martin Bashir. She spoke about the media pressure. "I'm hunted from the moment I wake up until I go to sleep. There's no escape. People think being photographed is flattering, but when it's every single day, every single moment, it becomes a prison." The public began to sympathize, but tabloid editors didn't care. Diana photos still sold papers. As long as there was profit, the hunt would continue. The relationship between Diana and certain photographers was complex. Some, like Arthur Edwards, developed a grudging respect for her. Others saw her only as a paycheck. Diana learned to manipulate the press when necessary. She would tip off photographers about charitable events she wanted covered. She understood that good publicity helped her causes, but she drew a clear line between professional photography and invasion of privacy. Official engagements were fair game. Her private life should have been off limits. The press didn't respect that line. To them, Diana's private life was even more valuable than her public work. The vacation photos were particularly invasive. When Diana went on holiday, photographers would follow, rent nearby villas, use long-range lenses to capture her in bikinis, relaxing, being human. The famous photos of Diana on Mohammed Al Fayed's yacht in 1997, just weeks before her death, were taken from hundreds of meters away. Diana thought she was in a private area, but telephoto lenses made that impossible. These photos today are seen differently. They're not just celebrity snapshots, they're evidence of stalking. Diana is clearly trying to relax, unaware she's being photographed from a distant boat. The French paparazzi were particularly aggressive. Unlike British photographers who had some professional standards, French paparazzi operated in a legal grey area with fewer restrictions. When Diana began dating Dodi Fayed in summer 1997, the media frenzy reached its peak. A photo of Diana with Dodi could fetch £250,000. Photographers from around the world descended on France. On the night of August 30, 1997, Diana and Dodi were trying to evade paparazzi in Paris. At least 7 photographers on motorcycles were chasing their car. The driver, Henri Paul, was trying to outrun them. What happened next in the Alma tunnel is well documented. The car crashed at high speed. Henri Paul and Dodi died instantly. Diana was critically injured. And what did the paparazzi do? They photographed the crash scene. Instead of helping, they took pictures of Diana dying in the wreckage. Those photos, Diana's final moments, captured by the very people who had hunted her for 17 years, were offered to newspapers for millions. Most respectable outlets refused to publish them, but some tabloids couldn't resist. The public outrage was immediate and intense. People realized the media had literally chased Diana to her death. The hunt had finally caught its prey, with fatal consequences. In the aftermath, there were investigations, new laws, and promises of change, but the fundamental problem remained. Diana photos made money, and as long as there was profit, there would be hunters. Today, we look at Diana's relationship with the press as a cautionary tale. She was the first celebrity to experience 24/7 media surveillance. She was hunted, violated, and ultimately killed by an industry that saw her as content, not as a human being. The photographers who chased Diana that night in Paris were initially arrested, but never convicted. The legal system couldn't definitively prove the paparazzi caused the crash, even though they clearly contributed to the dangerous situation. This lack of accountability sent a message. Hunting celebrities, even to the point of danger, carries no real consequences. Princess Diana's life was a 17-year lesson in the cost of fame. She paid with her privacy, her mental health, and ultimately her life. And the cameras never stopped clicking.